Chapter 9. The Cave, the Core, and the Crystals. Derek scanned the cave floor with his emergency flashlight. Shadows stretched and shrank as the beam swept across the damp ground. Boulders, a few fallen stalactites, and scattered animal bones littered the area. It looked like something had once lived there, but abandoned it long ago. Fortunately, it had only taken a few hours to locate the site. Structurally stable, with adequate shelter, and a high mineral density in the surrounding rock. It was a suitable location for gathering resources and initiating basic field repairs. He had left the Nova armor in drone mode, lying dormant in a nearby bush to conserve power. Walking around without it in a place like this was risky, but running out of energy entirely? That would be a death sentence. Every kilowatt saved could mean the difference between life and death. Derek scratched his head. "Vonda, what's the reactor status?" The Nova's energy levels have been steadily declining for the past 3 hours and 15 minutes. Estimated time to complete shutdown, 6 hours and 54 minutes. At least it's not accelerating. Derek rubbed his chin. If the plasma leakage rate had increased, an explosion wouldn't have been out of the question. If I can patch it in time, while there's still plasma in the core, I might still have a shot. But once it ran out, even if he managed to complete the repairs, he doubted he'd find a way to recharge it in a jungle. He needed to move fast. Derek tapped the skin-mounted transceiver behind his ear. "Vonda, I think this spot could work. The rock's mineral-rich, and the entrance is hidden by vegetation." "Understood. I'm on my way." His gaze lingered on the jagged rock formations around him. Some had an oddly geometric structure, like quartz crystals, but their colors were strange. A hunch nagged at him, so he switched off the flashlight. The world around him bloomed into a kaleidoscope of soft, colored light. The rocks emitted a faint glow in hues of blue, green, and red, casting a dreamlike atmosphere over the cave. The hum of the drone behind him broke his reverie. "Wow," Vonda whispered in his ear, as the Nova sensor allowed her to analyze the minerals. "Analysis," Derek muttered, eyes locked on the shimmering rocks. "It looks like we're dealing with unknown crystalline formations. I'm detecting overlapping traces of energy." "I see." It was as if the entire world were infused with strange energy Vonda couldn't analyze. Maybe it had something to do with the auric level she had mentioned earlier. Derek frowned. "And it's stable?" "No fluctuations so far," Vonda replied, her voice almost reverent. "Like it's magic?" Derek asked with an eyebrow raised. "Exactly." Scratching at his scruffy beard, Derek studied the glowing rocks. He didn't have much of a choice. The reactor was on its last legs, and he'd never find a better place to mine for the minerals he needed to fix it. All he could do now was hope. "Vonda, deploy the repair bots from the drone. Task them with finding minerals compatible with the reactor core. Send them the necessary specs." "Got it." The drone touched down on the cave floor, its steel hatches hissing open with a series of precise clicks. The Nova armor, folded into its drone form, was unrecognizable. A sleek triangle of black metal hovered mid-air, carried by the soft hum of its maneuvering microthrusters. 2 metallic spheres detached from their docking ports, each equipped with multi-jointed arms and bristling with sensor arrays. The repair bots floated toward the back of the cave, scanners pulsing as they mapped the terrain and analyzed mineral composition. Amidst a chorus of beeps and low mechanical hums, laser beams swept across the rocks, conducting a preliminary scan to locate optimal mining points. "Thanks, Vonda," Derek said with a sigh. "Keep the Nova in drone mode and leave it on standby. I'll keep an eye on our little robot friends. If they find anything useful, you'll be the first to know." "Okay. Stay safe. Talk later." "Later?" Derek dug into his pocket for the remains of his peanut stash. He pulled out the crumpled package and retrieved the last salted peanut. It was the final one. He popped it into his mouth, savoring the salty taste, and closed his eyes. Who knew when he'd get to enjoy something like this again? Maybe it would be the last one of his life. He would die in this remote place, with no one ever knowing what had happened to him. Derek? Yeah. Vanda. Don't worry, it'll be fine. Derek gave a tired smile. Sure, it's all under control. He definitely wasn't stranded in a jungle, being hunted by a lunatic in leather underwear who could tear through the most advanced power armor in the galaxy, using nothing but a wooden stick. He wasn't running low on supplies, his generator wasn't leaking plasma, and his entire body didn't hurt like hell from head to toe. And he totally hadn't just finished the last salted peanut he had. Nope, everything was just fine. The drone powered down with a soft metallic sigh. Even in drone mode, the burns and damage from the hits the Nova had taken were clearly visible on the armor. He could only hope the repair bots would find the necessary materials in abundance. Otherwise, at this rate, the Nova would soon fall apart. Derek leaned against the cold, damp cave wall, watching his bots at work as his back ached. At least now, he had a moment to process the day's events. The pyramid, the savage, the so-called fire golem. Maybe the answer had been right in front of him all along. He just hadn't had the time to piece it together. If he could focus, his brilliant mind would surely figure it out, right? The hum of the bots and the soft glow of the rocks created a soothing backdrop. His eyelids grew heavy. He had to stay awake. He had to focus on his current situation and find a way out. He had to. Derek's eyes snapped open. Where was he? Jagged rocks surrounded him, their sharp edges pressing into his back. A bright light streamed in from the cave entrance. It must have been daytime by now. The damp scent of the cave bit into his nostrils. His back ached, and a dull pressure throbbed in his head. He turned toward the wall where the bots had been working. They were gone. Derek frowned. Judging by the freshly dug hole, they'd been busy while he was out. Their micro-lasers melted rock silently. It wasn't surprising he hadn't noticed. His gaze shifted to the drone, and his stomach dropped. It was gone, too. No Nova, no bots, no Vanda. He was alone now. Heart pounding, he sprang to his feet, ignoring the pain in his joints, and rushed toward the cave entrance. Outside, he was met with blinding light. He quickly raised a hand to shield his eyes. The vibrant green vegetation and the untainted air overwhelmed his senses. Wet earth, dewy leaves, and a faint, muddy aroma. It smelled alive. That was the only word that came to mind. The climate, however, was stiflingly hot and humid, and the relentless chirping of insects, or whatever they were, was deafening. Coming from the coolness of the cave, the humid heat felt like a warm, wet blanket forcing its way into his lungs. The Nova. He'd left it in drone mode before falling asleep. Could someone have stolen it? No. She would have warned him if something was wrong. Derek tapped the transceiver behind his ear. "Vanda, you there?" "Morning, Princess," Vanda said so cheerfully that it pulled a grimace from Derek. His brow furrowed. What was going on? Had Vanda finally lost it completely? "Good. Morning? Where are you? Is everything okay?" "Fantastic. You have to see this." Derek scowled. He'd never heard her this excited. Was her emotional plug-in malfunctioning? That was the last thing he needed now. The drone's triangular silhouette emerged above the treetops, descending smoothly toward him, with the hum of the maneuvering micro-thrusters in the background. The burn marks and surface damage on the external armor seemed to have vanished. Derek narrowed his eyes. "Why aren't you in standby? Why did you reactivate the reactor? I told you to keep it offline to save Nova's energy." "The leak's been fixed," Vanda said as the drone silently touched down. Derek approached cautiously, and with a mechanical click, a metal panel on the top of the drone unlocked. "Take a look," said Vanda. Derek crouched and opened the sleek black compartment on the drone. Boards and circuits he had never seen before were interspersed with colorful glowing crystals, identical to the ones he had found in the cave. However, these had been cut into more regular shapes and somehow integrated into the electronic boards, as if they were part of the circuit itself. His eyes widened at the sight of new plasma conduits, secondary valves, and additional systems he couldn't even identify. Crystalline formations had also been installed around the reactor itself. Somehow, they seemed integrated into the system. None of those connections made the slightest sense. It was as if an 8-year-old had randomly wired circuit boards together with colorful building blocks. What the hell? Who did this to my precious Nova? The repair bots. Apparently they worked all night, extracted minerals, shaped the parts, and assembled them. Derek blinked, still staring at the mess inside in disbelief. And you let them do this? His voice had risen to a not-so-manly pitch. Do I need to remind you that you ordered me to go into standby to conserve energy? By the time I reactivated, they had already finished. Derek swallowed hard and shut the panel with a loud clang. He couldn't believe it. Maybe he was still inside the cave, dreaming. Have you run a full system diagnostic? Aside from the generator, is everything else working normally? Normally? No, Derek, nothing is working normally. It's as if every system has undergone some kind of upgrade, higher energy efficiency, faster response times, improved actuator performance, and increased durability of the external armor. Derek opened his mouth, but no sound came out. How was that even possible? The repair bots, his repair bots, had just demonstrated a level of engineering superiority so vast that in a single night, and with only a handful of raw materials, they had improved a design he had spent years perfecting. A design he considered the pinnacle of technology in every aspect. It felt like an open-handed slap to the face that made absolutely no sense. Derek hobbled a few steps forward and dropped onto the first rock he found, his gaze lost in the void. Derek, are you feeling okay? Vanda's voice carried a hint of concern. I'm detecting elevated stress levels right now. If I didn't see you sitting safely on that rock, based on this data, I'd assume someone was threatening your life or something. There was only one possible culprit with the technical and scientific capabilities to pull off such a miracle. The Wardalai, Derek said. What? Derek stroked his chin. They're programmed to stick to Nova's specs. This is so far beyond the specs, it doesn't even feel like technology anymore. The only thing capable of doing this to Nova is the Wardalai. Something in the Kolar node software, derived from Wardalai technology, must have overridden the bot's programming. That's the only explanation. Possible, Vanda said. I have a large batch of additional data from the Kolar node, but I haven't managed to process it or integrate it with the rest of the database yet. There might be some answers in there. Derek nodded. Run it. Let me know if you find anything. Oh, and speaking of upgrades, Vanda added, you should take a look at the repair bots too. She released the bots from the drone. 2 large metal spheres, far bigger than before, floated out and slowly landed in front of him. New pairs of mechanical limbs emerged beneath their bodies, providing additional support. They're bigger. And that's not all, Vanda said, her voice brimming with excitement. Look closer. Derek leaned in. New, mysterious tools, maybe analyzers, were mounted on their surfaces. Equipment he couldn't even identify with certainty. His frown deepened. What? Who did this? Did they modify themselves? I don't know, Vanda replied. I came back online automatically once they finished installing the reactor core and rebooted the system. But something definitely changed them overnight. Derek stared at the bots. He was certain that if he opened them up to study them, he'd find more colorful crystals and nonsensical connections, just like inside Nova. Vonda murmured. Colorful energy-filled crystals that can boost even Nova's fusion reactor efficiency? Sounds like magic to me, Derek. The sound he made resembled nails on a chalkboard. He gritted his teeth. Don't ever say something that stupid again. Oh, come on. How else would you explain this? I'll tell you what it wasn't, Derek said, raising a finger with each word. Magic, gods, saints, ancestors, the tooth fairy, any of that nonsense. Whatever this was, it was science. Pure, undeniable science. And do you know why I'm so sure? I bet you're about to tell me, Vonda said dryly. Because it's the only thing that exists. The universe runs on precise, immutable laws. Science is the only tool we've got to understand them and bend them to our advantage before the universe decides it doesn't need us anymore and wipes us out. You know, Derek, every time you talk about the universe, you sound like it kicked your dog or something. You sure you don't have a personal grudge? Derek opened his mouth to retort, but something smacked him in the forehead. Ow! He rubbed the spot. What was that? Vonda let out a mocking laugh. Maybe the universe wanted to let you know it heard you. Derek glanced up. 10 monkeys. No, more. Peered down from the treetops. But these weren't ordinary monkeys. Their eyes glowed electric blue. Their bodies shimmered faintly, and strange, luminous symbols marked their azure fur. This isn't the universe, Derek muttered, massaging his forehead. It's those little jerks. One of the monkeys leaped in front of him, landing softly and silently, with an almost theatrical flourish. It stood upright and extended a small hand toward him. Vanda let out a squeal of delight. Oh, what a lovely little shiny monkey. Derek crossed his arms and frowned. What? Does it want a handshake? I'm probably going to have a bruise on my forehead thanks to it. It can go screw itself. A sphere of crackling white energy formed in the monkey's palm, a ball of flickering threads darting across its hand at lightning speed. His heart skipped a beat. No animal should be that familiar with such energy, no matter where it came from. What the hell was that thing? Some kind of cybernetic entity sent to kill him? His stomach twisted into a tight knot. He wasn't under the protection of his Nova armor. If they hit him now... The sphere of energy swelled with a menacing crackle, and the monkey let out something between a high-pitched snarl and a shriek. Definitely not as friendly as Vonda thought. Oh shit! Derek took a step back. He dove aside just as a bolt of crackling electricity shot from the monkey's hand, streaking straight toward him.